Hi, I'm back with another video, a highlight of your day. I'm not going to be doing a video on music per se, but I do have some music playing kind of loud in the background. I've been testing out how these come out with the equalization, and I don't think it'll overwhelm me. It's interesting. I actually did an on music video last night where I had a window open here where I was playing snippets of on YouTube, off of YouTube, of a bunch of newer albums, new to me, that I was getting into, that I was going to share, and did a little commentary in between hearing some of the albums, and like DJ wise. I thought it turned out great, and then I played it back, and you couldn't hear the music at all. Then I even tried it again and had the music playing through my phone, and my phone up here, and you still could only make out the high notes. So I don't know. I have one other option. I can try to play it through my computer in the files, that I've downloaded, I guess, while I scroll through the YouTube, because basically I use those as like a screen, a window over here where I can kind of read up on the groups for you and give some anecdotes via YouTube channels that I subscribe to. Anyway, all that being said, I am going to pop on over here and what's in front of me, but not you guys. Today, well, you can hear it or not, I'm listening to the J.P.T. Scare Band, an album from 1975 called Sleeping Sickness, described as U.S. hard rock, heavy metal, acid rock. Definitely acid rock, tons of effects. It's great. Maybe I'll play some of it if I can ever master that process. Right now, it's just very kind of loud Hendrix's guitar. A lot of the guitars are very kind of Hendrix when he goes into the stratosphere here. And the members of the band were Terry Swope on guitar and vocals, Paul Grigsby on bass and vocals, and Joe Luttrell on drums and vocals. Some of this I'm translating from a Spanish website. And I had to translate the whole blurb here. I'll cover them another time. I've got all this information up here. But I will say I'm going to go ahead with the video I'm planning. It's been a challenging day. It's kind of been one, Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. It did go wrong. Let me move my little box. This is where my Umberto Lindsay box set came in. So it's been a pretty discouraging day, but I've had a few bright spots, which I'll get into later. And I wish you guys could hear this incredible guitar solo, and maybe you can, maybe it's drowning me out, I'm not sure. But I turned it up as loud as I kind of dared. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and try to speak loudly and clearly about whatever I'm going to speak about. So I wanted to do a video today because it's Friday, and tonight I'll be hopefully indulging in a hopefully bright spot of my day, which will be WandaVision Episode 3. My WandaVision video was, fairly well received, and the show's been fairly well received by people whose opinions I trust and respect. It's been well received by a lot of people whose opinions I don't trust or respect. So I don't know. I guess that's a win across the board. Screen Rant didn't rip it to shreds. I'm aghast. So I guess wow, a universal appeal. The fan bros haven't nitpicked every episode to pieces yet. It's coming. Don't worry. I'll keep you posted so you don't have to read that garbage. Anyway, I'm going to do another TV musing thing. That's what I've decided this will be. Since I did a blue review on the lovely Umberto Lindsay Carol Baker Complete Giallo Collection box set, which I'm about 2/3 of the way through, 3/4 of the way through now. I've been imbibing in that each evening. So to move in a little different direction and go back to the TV thing. Um, so today I think I've got a few options here of things I could talk about. Mainly either the DC Universe slash HBO Max shows, though that might be a lengthy video for me because I was also going to touch on Watchmen on HBO and Black Lightning on CW. So the whole kind of my DC live action TV experience. So we'll hold out for another time. For now, I'm just going to talk about some sci-fi franchise shows that I've been enjoying and my thoughts about them. And again, I'm going to probably throw a little context in here and there and some trivia because everybody has their opinions floating around about these, and a lot of them are very strong opinions, especially of the second thing I'm going to cover. First thing I'm going to cover is The Mandalorian. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because I don't think I've announced this on YouTube yet. I announced it a couple of years ago on Facebook, and no kidding, I lost 25 friends in an hour. Friends. I'm not a Star Wars fan. Just not into it. Yes, I've seen every Star Wars film except for Solo, that one. I've seen the Star Wars Holiday Special. I used to collect the Marvel Star Wars comics. I was collecting them before the movies even came out. They were done by Roy Thomas. He brought Star Wars to comics. That's a big achievement of his. You know, he also brought Conan to comics and created characters which later went into live action, such as Iron Fist and Luke Cage and The Vision. So yeah, I Star Wars I thought was okay when it came out. I was a little kid. I liked it really briefly, and then it started kind of getting to, like, the kids in my class were like Kiss, you know, and Star Wars, and I just wasn't ever one of those popular loving kids. You know, I didn't know the word commercial back then or mainstream really per se, but that stuff was even then too ubiquitous for me. I needed something a little deeper than that kind of entertainment. When Empire Strikes Back came out, I was like the exact target age, and I did love it. I saw it 3 times in the theater. I read Donald Glutt's novelization, and I went back to collecting the comics. But to be honest, within actually I was collecting the comics before Empire Strikes Back came out, even though I wasn't into like the movie anymore. A lot of kids I knew went to see Star Wars in the theater anywhere from 5 to 50 times, or so they said. Now, I guess that was a PG movie, so they could go by themselves or whatever. I mean, I never went to the movies by myself at that age, even to PG movies. My parents were very sheltering. I was lucky to see Empire 3 times with friends and with parents at different times. It was an event in 1980, but I was still kind of a young kind of munchkin, and I lost interest in Star Wars within about a year of that, almost completely. A couple of friends came to pick me up when Return of the Jedi came out. A buddy had moved away, and he was in town and with his little brother, and he's like, my one friend Howard called me and said, "Hey, Tom's in town with his little brother Darren. Let's all go see Return of the Jedi." And I was like, okay. And they were all super orgasmic, and I was really bored and didn't like it. Just didn't like it. And that was the end of me in Star Wars. By the time I got like seriously into film, and I was still into science fiction and everything heavily, but by the time I got seriously into film and cinema, Star Wars wasn't on my radar. I started revisiting science fiction properties from my youth, like Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica and such. There were some that didn't hold up for me. For a lot of people, Battlestar Galactica didn't, but for me it did. I actually much prefer Battlestar Galactica to Star Wars, admitting that Star Wars popularity made Galactica possible. Star Wars popularity also made big budget, well done films such as The Thing and Blade Runner and Flash Gordon and Alien possible. So I acknowledge its technical influence and impact. Storytelling and general everything else, I don't respond to it. I know a lot about that universe. Just kind of an all-purpose geek, so I'm well versed in all that. I'm not 100% up on some of the later lore, but then again, a lot of that was retconned away when Disney bought Lucasfilms and declared that the extended universe and the novels was all non-canonical and just stick to the movies, but then they started deciding which of the new books and comic books going forward. Once again, full circle, published by Marvel again, which had also been bought by Disney, surprisingly to all. So I don't know. I haven't seen like the Clone Wars cartoons. They're supposed to be canonical. Solo, I never got around to seeing. I did see Rogue One. The recent year Star Wars movies I've seen in a couple of ways, for a couple of reasons. 1999 or 2000 rather, I rented on VHS still 3 1999 movies that were very hyped and polarizing. I rented them all in one night. I rented Star Wars Phantom Menace, I rented The Blair Witch Project, and I rented Eyes Wide Shut. And I dislike all of those movies for different reasons. Probably the less said about the better, because those are all kind of sacred cows to various people. Though a lot of people did recognize the awfulness of Phantom Menace. Later, I got a job at Borders, and I worked in the video department, and we would play like PG-13, PG whatever kind of action, sci-fi, superhero / kids kind of movie, animated, Pixar and such kind of movies. And so yeah, I saw Phantom Menace again, and each viewing it lost even more of its minute luster. Watched Attack of the Clones, and I thought it was a better made movie, cool effects, some cool aliens, slightly better written, but still no prize. Years later, I got married to someone who was obsessed with Star Wars. That wasn't why I married them, obviously. So, one of our first Christmases together, I bought her a big DVD box set with the first 3 films, which were now recalibrated as the 4th, 5th, and 6th films. I'm not sure if any of you guys are old enough to remember this, but a movie called Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, when it played in the theater and on cable and such in the day, it was just called Star Wars. That's all been kind of retconned away. It's not so much that Lucas just changed the movie going forward. He kind of retconned it away, like, the Mandela effect. Like we were hallucinating that it was just called Star Wars. It's always been called Episode 4: A New Hope. And no, that's a dirty fucking lie, George. It's just not true. Same with Empire Strikes Back. It was called Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, but no episode number. I don't even think Return of the Jedi had an episode 6, though by then maybe they were doing that. Lucas tinkered with his own movies a lot and changed things over the years, and it's been, for some periods of time, it's been hard to see the actual original theatrical cuts as I saw them. This box set I bought for my ex-wife, for instance, were the new versions with the edited scenes and redone special effects and the redone titles and everything. So in that set, 1, 2, and 3 were Phantom Menace. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And that was my first time seeing that, and I'd been told how it was so great by my ex-best friend and his wife, who was a big Star. Well, she was a big Star Wars fan. He was kind of a semi-closet Star Wars fan, like because he was like a highfalutin science fiction, horror, fantasy, self-appointed academic. And to his credit, he did know a tremendous amount about this stuff, and is an intelligent, talented person, albeit, my opinion of him is kind of low. But back then, even when it was high, he and I didn't see eye to eye on Star Wars. They were pounding away at me, Revenge of the Sith is so dark and different. And of course, my ex-wife was like, Revenge of the Sith it's Star Wars, say no more. So I watched it, and I was like, yeah, by degrees, it's better than the first two, which are really the seventh and eighth movies. But the first, second in the cycle by the new numbering. And it was darker in the sense it had some pretty morally reprehensible actions on the part of its ostensible hero, Anakin Skywalker, who by the end, of course, becomes the villain, Darth Vader. Spoilers. Whoops. Oh, and by the way, he's Luke's father. Oops. And Leia's father. So, sorry, I fucked it up for you guys. Also, Rosebud's a sled. So, but I still didn't like it. I mean, Hayden Christensen's a just heinous actor. I've never been an Ewan McGregor fan either. I thought he was terrible. I did like him in Dr. Sleep recently, a lot. Not that he doesn't have talent. I just wasn't a Train Spotting fan. I wasn't a Pillow Book fan, and I love Greenaway. But Ewan McGregor's just one of those kind of clunky, lunky, boring guys to me. He's starting to get a little finesse in his old age, by Dr. Sleep, but then he turns around and does horrible turn in Birds of Prey. He's weak. He wasn't Alec Guinness, we'll put it that way. But those movies had some good actors in them. The Lucas directed episode 1, 2, 3. I mean, there was Christopher Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, Natalie Portman, Tamira Morrison. I mean, come on. They're all pretty much, in their own ways, motherfuckers as actors in their genres and their strong points. I would trade every Star Wars movie on Earth just for Once Were Warriors with Tamira Morrison. Without a hesitation. There wouldn't even be like, I would trade them all for Sam Jackson in Caveman's Valentine, or Natalie Portman in Annihilation, or Christopher Lee in The Wicker Man. Star Wars to me is just, it's not high art, and it's too pretentious to accept that it's low art. And I don't know, it's just, maybe that's a bad way to put it. I like high and low art. I'm a kind of postmodernist in that sense. Star Wars doesn't slot in anywhere. I love childish stuff. I love Kim to the White Lion. I love bad cinema. I'm a big Ted Michaels, Al Adamson freak. But to me, Star Wars is just cheesy, one-dimensional. It is archetypal. It is mythological. It has resonance. There is a legitimate universe that he's building with some legitimate ideas. The Star Wars of the title with all the political ramifications, but too often that stuff's not portrayed intelligently. Until The Mandalorian, the show. And the rate I'm kind of ranting about this, I don't think I'll get time to talk about another show. So we'll wait till next time. But as far as The Mandalorian goes, well, here's the deal. So for the last few years, I watched, via my dear friend Wayne Cochran's Plex channel, I got to watch, for free, as I like it with Star Wars. Prefer it, demand it. I got to see Rogue One, Star Wars Story. It was good. It was solid. I don't know if it was good. It was pretty good. It wasn't as good as people were saying it was. I think it blew them away because it was so different. And I got that, and then so I was kind of expecting it to be even more different. But unfortunately, there were still too many things in it that reminded me of the other 6 movies. So A draw on that one. Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams. I'm not fond of him as a Well, he's produced some good stuff like Westworld and some other great stuff. Did he do Lost? I can't remember. Lost. He did Alias. Alias was a decent show. That's all I'll say. It's decent. Lost was that Lindelof and Abrams maybe. Lindelof I like. I never saw the In-Betweeners or whatever the show he did before Watchmen. Watchmen I loved. We'll get to that another time. Lost, I saw about 4 episodes. It was very well made. It was interesting. Obviously very kind of Twin Peaks-ish influenced. Lots of weird mysteries, kind of in that post-Twin Peaks kind of carnival era of television. And nothing wrong with that. And when Abrams leaped into being the golden boy for both Paramount and Disney by helming the rebooted Star Trek movies and the continuation of the did I say Star Trek? Star Trek. And the continuation of the Star Wars movies. He lost me, man. I mean, and then I'd read interviews with him, and he just strikes me as a really smug, rich, out of touch guy. He's like, I've got these franchises, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. It's not so much I've got a responsibility to the fans, like the MCU guys tend to Kevin Feige seems to think. He's just like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, man. I'm fucking J.J. Abrams, baby. And he does, and it's a disaster. I hated those 3 Star Wars movies. Actually, I never saw the one with Khan, who, I like Cumberbatch in some things, like as Doctor Strange. He's a talented guy, but he's wrong ethnicity, wrong bent to be Khan. There's no need to retell. There's no need to remake Wrath of Khan. It's a classic. It stands up to this day. And if you can guess that the next thing I was going to talk about originally that I'm shunting over to next episode is going to be Star Trek, then you're right. I'm a Star Trek fan. Not a Star Wars fan, but I am a Star Trek fan. But I hated those Star Trek movies. Maybe I'll get into that next time with Star Trek. I'm on my Star Wars journey right now, so I'll probably get less death threats and hate mail from my Star Trek chapter than this one. Because Star Wars is a sacred cow of our culture. It really is. It's kind of like political parties or religious figures. There are filmmakers like that too, like Quentin Tarantino. I've literally been told. I used to get this quote a lot when I worked at Borders. Here was the conversation. Are you into Quentin Tarantino? I'm like, no, not really. I like some of his work. And I was literally told this on 3 occasions. If you're not into Quentin Tarantino, then you're not a cinephile. You can't stand here and tell me you're genuinely into film. I said, well, I'm not, and I am telling you that. So, see ya. And actually, since I was working, I'd be like, I am telling you that, and anything else I can help you with? Same with Star Wars. You don't like Star Wars? There's a few guys I work with who are kind of young at my day job and great kids, but they're in like the 19 to 21 range, and I told a couple of them when Mandalorian came out that I said, yeah, I really like the Mandalorian. And I'm not a Star Wars fan, and it got quiet. It got a little tense for a few minutes, and finally this kid said, well, why not? Why not? I don't. Is there a reason? I don't understand. And he wasn't fucking with me. It's inconceivable for people I'm a weirdo. People don't understand why I don't like Tarantino or Star Wars or Blair Witch Project or certain sacred cows of our entertainment universe. Or Marvel Comics. Even though I grew up with Marvel Comics, I love the movies. Why don't you collect Marvel Comics, man? I could be here all day explaining my reasons, and I have reasons. I think the Star Wars I've given you a few. So the rest can come for another time. I mentioned Tarantino in my last video, and I think I brushed on Blair Witch briefly another time. But again, I love found footage movies. So, I mean, Cannibal Holocaust will always be the king, and the heir apparent for me is Wreck and Wreck 2. So it's not a matter of that. It's not a matter of the genre. I was into science fiction, maybe not horror, but I was into science fiction well before most Star Wars people I know were alive. And the ones of my generation who were that target age, say when Empire came out, are the ones slightly older than me who were that target age when the first one came out. To be honest, a lot of them don't like it either. A lot of my friends, anyway, who are older. Yeah, I never got Star Wars. I'm kind of going to stick with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Maybe Logan's Run or something. I like Alien. Star Wars kind of cheesy. I like Star Trek. I mean, and these are direct quotes from wise people, older and wiser than me by far. But it's cool if you like Star Wars. If that's your jam, so to speak, then go for it. It's cool. I mean, I don't go around proselytizing, but this is my YouTube channel. I am reviewing a Star Wars slash Lucasfilm slash Disney property. I reviewed a Disney property last time. I don't work for Disney. I'm not a Disney employee. I'm not bought off. And this time, unlike the WandaVision video, I'm not even intoxicated. I'm just kind of acting like it. This is the way I am normally, abnormally. So, Force Awakens, even though it's J.J. Abrams, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I thought it was solid. I thought he was at least trying to expand. I don't hate everything these people do. I mean, I'm giving JJ some props here. I thought he was trying to expand and go to the next generation. And you might have gleaned this from my Twin Peaks videos. I'm not so much down into remakes and reboots. I love continuations of the saga. I write a continuing saga. It's not that it's a saga like a big ponderous epic. It's just that you love those characters. You become invested in that world. You want to see it continue and evolve and grow like our real lives do, instead of constantly being rebooted, or like in the case of Marvel Comics, oh, they're not really dead. Oh, that didn't really happen. I know damn well it did happen. When Stacy died. I like the way they brought Bucky back from the dead, though. So if it's done right and it works within a story, cool. And that's how I try to do my stories. To me, dead is dead in my stories, but I have some ways around death in my stories, but I've got it kind of plotted ahead of time, and I try to have some internal logic within the ground rules of my universe. But that's Flicker Street. Had to plug it. That's for another time. I saw The Last Jedi. I loved it. It's by far my favorite Star Wars movie. See, it's a Star Wars movie for non-Star Wars fans. It was dark, and it did demolish some of the sacred cows, like Luke being perfect in his old age when wisdom, or Ren having to be the heir to a family of force wielders. It's really a jamming album. And I thought it was a great movie. I really did think it was It's the only Star Wars movie I would even remotely characterize as great. My second favorite of all Star Wars movies is still Empire Strikes Back. It's a solid sci-fi fantasy movie. Lee Brackett, a really good sci-fi writer, largely wrote it, and what's his name? Irvin Kurt and Lawrence Kasdan, I guess, who had written or done. Didn't he do Body Heat? I think he co-wrote it, and Irvin Kershner is a pretty solid, dope director. The three of them did a really nice job on it. It holds up. It's not one of my favorite science fiction movies. I doubt it's even in my top 500 movies of all time. But it for what it is, it works and it holds up. I will say this: Return of the Jedi, as much as I disliked it at the time, I would say it's probably my third favorite, probably tied with Force Awakens. Solid, not as bad as a lot of people think they are, not as bad as I thought they were in both of those cases. So there we've got in my hierarchy of Star Wars films, like I've said, I've seen all of them, including the holiday special, except Solo. One day I'll watch it for completism's sake. My number one's the Last Jedi. My number two is Empire Strikes Back. My number three is a tie between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. Then I don't care about any of the other ones. I have no use for those. The four ones directed by Lucas. I'm not into him as a filmmaker. I'm not into him as a director, as a visionary, a storyteller. His concepts and some of his creations, I think, are cool, and it's a neat little universe. I just don't like the way he handles it. I don't think he's got the chops, and maybe that's why he sold it to Disney. He wanted better for his baby. We all did, George, and now we kind of have it. Okay, Rise of Skywalker, Abrams came back, and I have seen it kind of, but to be honest, I don't think I made it past 45 minutes of a 2.5, 3 hour movie. To me, it was a step back. Not only a step back to Force Awakens, but a step back to things I didn't like about Star Wars. It was trying too hard to be just like Star Wars that your dad liked, because Last Jedi was such a rebellious and irreverent film. I mean, even Mark Hamill hated it, and that's fine. I thought he was fantastic in it, but he did it. He needed the money, I guess. I did it for the fans. I can't figure Mark Hamill out. Sometimes he seems like a really cool, conscientious, empathetic guy, and other times he's like, I hate Last Jedi. And then he goes on and on about Donald Trump, and it's like, we all hate Donald Trump, man. Trying to think of some other conversation points here. You got fans that want to talk to you about stuff of substance, like why you hate Last Jedi. So, he's a good actor, though. He seems like a cool. So here we have The Mandalorian, the first ongoing Star Wars live-action television series. It was created by Jon Favreau, who it only took me a half hour to get here. Jon Favreau, of course, has done a few films. I think, didn't he do Swingers? I don't know. No, he didn't do Swing. He did that other one, Made, maybe. But he did Zathura, which is a mediocre kids movie. But I walked by him at a San Diego Comic-Con in 2006, and this was around the time it was announced he was going to do Iron Man. And my then girlfriend went to high school with him in New York at a kind of a School of the Arts kind of deal. She's like, "Oh, there's John," and I'm like, "Well, he's your classmate. Say hi." She's like, "No, he won't remember me." And I nodded at him, and he nodded, and I wasn't any more illuminated than the moment before I did that. But it was kind of cool. I mean, mainly because when he did do Iron Man, I really liked it. I still like it. He did a great job. And it was funny in Daredevil, even though, that movie was not a good adaptation of one of my all-time favorite Marvel comics. But he was good in it, and the chemistry between Favreau as Foggy and Affleck as Matt, that obviously was a strong influence on the amazing Daredevil Netflix show. And it was vastly improved on by superior actors. Eldon Henson as Foggy and my man Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, Daredevil. So I did do a Daredevil video if y'all ever want to watch it. Not many people have. So it's called Matt and Will Twin Flames Part 1, and Part 2 is Hannibal. So anyway, I'll eventually get to the point, I promise. This Mandalorian show. So, in the Star Wars mythology, the Mandalorians were like this kind of weird race, and they wore this armor, and a lot of them were bounty hunters, and they had this kind of closed society. And then I think in some of the supplementary Star Wars material that maybe post the Disney takeover was considered canonical, maybe the cartoons. I'm not sure, like the Clone Wars. You know, there's the dark saber, and whoever wields the dark saber rules the Mandalorians. Boba Fett was a clone himself, but he was the most human or Mandalorian-like clone. He was a clone of Jango Fett, this great Mandalorian warrior. He inherited his armor, and then of course most of the other clones of Jango Fett were the clones that were pressed into service in, you guessed it, the Clone Wars, and you guessed it again, Attack of the Clones. There's no mysteries to these titles in these movies, y'all. But this show took a different Favreau's concept. I thought it was going to take place after Rise of Skywalker, so it's going to be like the present day, the present scenario of Star Wars, kind of the way Star Trek Picard takes place in 2400. So it's like the most modern we've seen of the up to date Star Wars universe. Not counting Discovery Season 3, where they go into the future. I guess that's more modern technically, but it's not on the main timeline where we followed our characters chronologically since the original series. That's Picard. Another great show I'll talk about next time. So I thought that's when it took place. I did not know until the last episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian that it took place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So that was kind of cool. I thought maybe Jango Fett. I knew Boba Fett was going to be a character in Season 2. So I thought he must just be very long-lived, you know. I mean, it's only been like, I guess from Return of the Jedi to Rise of Skywalker is, I don't know, 30 years maybe. I'm kind of guesstimating this, like a 30-year span. Kind of like between the films, Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens was almost 30 years. I don't know if this guitar solo is drowning me out. I'm enjoying it. I'm trying not to get too distracted by it. It's pretty amazing, though. So, what's the concept for The Mandalorian? Well, the main character is just called The Mandalorian. They nicknamed him Mando. And in the beginning, he has an armor similar to Boba Fett's, and similar colors, some green, some maybe red and orange patches, and a lot of gray. After a few episodes, he gets new armor. I can't remember if his armor gets destroyed or something happens. This is like top-notch armor, and he like goes to the forgers of the armor among the Mandalorians. And now these are, as far as he knows, the true Mandalorians. And they never take their helmets off, and they are always saying things like, "This is the way." And that's kind of like they have a code, a warrior's kind of code, and that's part of it. They never take their helmets off, at least around other people. And the armor's a big thing, and they forge their armor to be very strong, able to withstand a lot of shit. I mean, blasters, your conventional Star Wars blasters bounce off of it and such. It can withstand lightsabers to an extent. Mando's a cool character. We never see him without his helmet, with his helmet off in Season 1 at all. So it's played by this cat called Pedro Pascal. I wasn't familiar with. Since The Mandalorian, I have seen him in WW84, World War 84, no, Wonder Woman 1984 as Max Lord, and he did the best he could with what he had to work with. We do see him without his mask twice in Season 2, which I was a little surprised. The first time it was like a big, like, it was a surprise, but it was also done so low-key, it's like, wow. Second time, it was almost done, like, gratuitously, like, okay, now he's a little more free, he can take his mask off some. And, I mean, maybe that's the point. But I thought maybe he loosened up a little too much. But there's a reason why he was loosening up on that. I'll get to that, maybe. Basically, he's just a bounty hunter, you know, after the fall of the Empire, and he's hanging out on this one planet. I don't remember what it's called, but Carl Weathers is one of the guys there, one of the officials. Nice seeing him again. Action Jackson, remember him? And this show has great casting. I didn't know Pedro Pascal is, but this has a lot of familiar actors and cultural figures and genre regulars, and I'll go through them all. So Carl Weathers is the first one of note, and he he hooks him up with this guy. I think the guy's called. He has like just a one word name, like a descriptor. I want to call him the procurer, but that's not it. It's more simple than that. But he is trying to procure an item. He wants Mando. They just call him Mando as a nickname. Mando to obtain this item of great value to the remains of the Empire and the people that this guy, maybe he's called the Collector. I forgot his name, damn it. But he's played by Werner Herzog. Incredible Werner Herzog. And, of course, he guys has that incredible accent where he's like, being a bounty hunter is very complicated. I'm not doing it right, but I'm not doing it justice. Sorry, Werner. Very complicated. But it does sound, more like Bruce Lee. But so he does. He takes this mission, and the object is a child. They call it the child, and basically it's a child, though it's older than a human child would be. In other words, they age really slowly, so it's still in a childlike kind of development state, but years older than the human child would be in a similar state. Though they later do make clear that he is more intellectually advanced than he appears to be. It's just he's very quiet and childlike in his personality. But he's from Yoda's race. He's not Yoda, and he's not Yoda's son or any of that stuff. So they call him Baby Yoda. The fans call him Baby Yoda. His real name's Grogu, which you don't learn that till season 2. And so he's kind of tasked with protecting this thing because, like, all kinds of nefarious forces want it, mainly led by this cat named Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito, another great casting choice. He plays this part with a lot of relish. Very good villain. Of course, at the same time, our time, he's also the main villain in The Boys. And he's in everything. He's ubiquitous, the ubiquitous Giancarlo Esposito. Of course, I remember him when he started as a young man playing a character named Clay Tynan on Guiding Light. This was in 1980-81, during the Douglas Marland era of Guiding Light, the golden years. And then he became a Spike Lee regular, and of course he was in King of New York and then numerous other films and things since then. He's really had quite a good run as a character actor now here in his 40s and 50s. I really dig him. He's a guy who's physically changed a lot over the years. He looks very different. He's looked very different as he ages. But that adds to his chameleon-like abilities as an actor. So he's the bad guy. And, it's about that simple. Like, every episode is they're kind of arcs, like 2-3 episode arcs. The general arc is trying to figure out what to do with this kid, the child, trying to keep it out of harm's way, trying to defeat Moff Gideon. Mando does pop back to this planet, not his planet, but the planet he's operating from a few times, and it's kind of a cesspool at first, and in between seasons 1 and 2, when he returns to it, it's kind of had a makeover, and Carl Weathers is one of the people running it, but he had made an ally in season 1, and you're going to hate me, I don't remember her character's name, but she's really cool, and she's played by a real-life wrestler or MMA fighter who's kind of an androgynous woman, but still kind of sexy, and, not a great actor, new to acting, but solid, likable. And she kind of becomes like the sheriff of the main town, city, whatever on the planet. So those are two of his allies early in season 1, and then again about halfway through to the end of season 2, he allies himself with them again. He has various adventures. The flavor of a lot of this show is like spaghetti westerns, which is kind of cool, or samurai movies. Obviously Lucas was very into spaghetti westerns and into Kurosawa. I don't know if he's into spaghetti westerns. He was very into Flash Gordon. He was very into Kurosawa and movies like Hidden Fortress, Yojimbo, Sanjuro, Seven Samurai, and of course those movies, especially Yojimbo, uh, influenced spaghetti westerns because Fist for Dollars is a updated, as in transposed from Shogunate Japan to the Old West. It's a remake. Fistful of Dollars is a remake of Yojimbo. And if you, some people don't necessarily call it a semi-remake, but if you watch them back to back, it's absolutely a remake. There's very strong similar plot twists, some exactly the same, and even a good bit of dialogue is the same. Both great classics. And I love samurai movies. I love spaghetti westerns. What can I say? So it's nice to see these genre tropes being used in The Mandalorian. My computer's acting a little weird, and I'm afraid it might cut me off or juice out of power before I get to an hour mark, which I was shooting for in this video. So I'm going to try to hit some bullet points here about The Mandalorian. Season 1 ended satisfactory. They wrapped up the adventure at hand. They had some great... they had the real Mandalorians, who apparently the real Mandalorians that Mando thinks he's part of with the armor people are kind of a weird cult, and they think, the dark saber has to be wielded and they can rule Mandalore, but actually so do the quote-unquote real Mandalorians, and we meet them and they're in their armor too, but they actually are the ones who were from Mandalore. Jango Fett was not exactly from Mandalore. I believe he was adopted, and he obtained the armor, and then of course Boba Fett carried on that tradition. The real Mandalorians are led by another character's name I've forgotten. I feel terrible, but she's played by Katee Sackhoff, who played Lieutenant Starbuck in the Battlestar Galactica remake series. Nice seeing her again. She's great. She's kind of a badass. She wants the Darksaber, and she wants the true Mandalorians, led by her ideally, to rise to power again. Another key character that we meet, you're going to hate me for this. I forgot her name too. I should have like a crib notes here. She's a Jedi, and she was in one of the Jedi animated, maybe the Clone Wars or one of the animated canonical shows. And this is her first live action appearance, but she's played by Rosario Dawson. Of course, I've been a fan of for many years. I met her a few times, and of course, was a key character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe division of Netflix on Netflix TV as Claire Temple. Been in a lot of movies I like, Descent and Clerks 2, and she's pretty cool. So anyway, she does a great job as this Jedi. And the Jedi, she makes a kind of a mental connection with the child, and that's when we learn his name's Grogu, and that he does have some Jedi mind powers, which we've kind of seen hints at, a la Yoda. He's actually had some Jedi training as like an infant. So he's a little older. He's not exactly a child, but like developmentally, he's kind of a child. Again, it's kind of relative to his race's lifespan as opposed to what the development would be like for a human or even a long-lived humanoid like a Mandalorian who are supposed to live like 120 years or something. We do meet Boba Fett, played in season 2 by Tamira Morrison, who played Jango Fett. So naturally, we see, he's a clone. So he's aged a little, but I mean, not tremendous. I mean, Tamira Morrison's aged, but it's all kind of relative. But that's when we really learned that the show takes place only 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And so Boba Fett is flawless. Tamira is great, in or out of the armor. Fantastic seeing him again. Great New Zealand actor. Maori, I believe he's a real life Maori, like his character in Once the Warriors. And probably some other great casting. That crazy guy, Richard Brake, who was in Mandy and Three from Hell, is in it as a really kind of a cocky red. He always plays kind of redneckish weirdo. you know, whether a good guy or bad guy, but he plays the bad guy, a Imperial, leftover Imperial soldier. Basically, Mando has to take off his helmet a couple of times in order to take some risks to save the child, to kind of go undercover. One time he's wearing a regular helmet, a different helmet, of a Imperial kind of hanger on, and that's the scene with Richard Brake. And then he ends up having to take his helmet off in that scene, and that's the first time. And then later he takes it off for an extended scene in the last episode. But Pascal is good. I mean, he's great. You know, he's great through the helmet or without the helmet or whatever. But it was cool seeing him with the helmet only a whole season after the whole big thing about how the Marvel superheroes always have to wear their helmets because they always have to have an excuse to take off their helmets and their masks because the actors are kind of like, hey, I want attention. I want you to see my face. It's my acting tool. It's like, that's about the story, man. Come on. I mean, no offense to Robert Downey Jr. or Tobey Maguire or who have you who've made these complaints over the years or seemingly have, but it's still about the character. And so bless Charlie Cox for wearing his Daredevil mask through the whole two-part Big Punisher face-off early in season 2. To where they even were working in the script, and Daredevil's like, you're not going to take off my mask? And Punisher's like, I don't give a damn who you are. And it goes from there. Mandalorian is a great show. It's fun. It's high production values, great effects. It has a lot of the Star Wars tropes and a lot of the Lucas tropes, a lot of which were lifted from Kurosawa, including the genre elements, but also like the wipes from screen to screen where they do the dissolves, scene transitions. Those came from Kurosawa. It explores different sides of the universe and shows the richness of it, of the different characters and races, and gives you a bit more insight into the political situation and the actual fallout of the fall of the Empire, long before we get into the, situation we have in the Abrams movies. But you do see the beginning of the rise of these forces that are wanting to take back over, and these dissident Imperials who are kind of lingering around. You feel the Imperial hatred because, like for instance, the friend of Mando's I mentioned, played by the MMA fighter, she was from Alderaan, where Princess Leia was, and of course Vader destroyed that planet. And so there's a good bit of venom there because it's like, hey, you did kind of like genocide my whole fucking race, and it's a lot more hard-edged than you see in Return of the Jedi, as far as these people's seething kind of anger and resentment. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of how these dynamics, the actual Star Wars and the actual politics that were made so convoluted in the Lucas 1 through 3 trilogy, needlessly so, is kind of made clearer, allegorical maybe to some situations in our messed up planet and right now, and how it affects and impacts the regular, I want to say the regular humans, the regular people. They're humans in all different races on all these far-flung planets. So I dig it. I give it an A plus. Well, I don't know about an A plus. That's a heavy. I give it an A. I give it a thumbs up, maybe 2 thumbs ups, 1.5 thumbs ups. Definitely the best Star Wars project I've ever imbibed, experienced. Looking forward to season 3. Season 2 ended pretty satisfactorily. Mando's love for the kid was nice, and a lot of people have said since Lucas was heavily influenced by the Kurosawa movies that this series is influenced by Lone Wolf and Cub, the Kenji Misumi films based on the Kazuo Kiki and Gaseki Kojima manga. And Favreau has confirmed that, but you know what? Until I read that, it did not even occur to me. Maybe I'm dense. I I looked back and I thought, maybe I'm not dense. I mean, okay, I get why people think that, but that's kind of a superficial read. I mean, there really aren't any actual scenes or major plot points uh, from Lone and Cub in Mandalorian, other than he's carrying around this kid who's in this floating thing, which is kind of like his little baby cart. And occasionally there's weapons, and and he's trying to take care of him and do his duty, but his personality is totally different than Ogami. And like someone pointed out, the child is kind of more like a MacGuffin, whereas Daigoro Ogami in Lone Wolf is definitely even albeit a small child, a pretty well-rounded character. So I think it's more the trope, the basic trope, the visual of it, you can make that analog. But Star Wars actually had scenes and riffs. The Star Wars series had scenes and riffs and things, homages directly from Hidden Fortress and Seven Samurai. This does not have any that I can tell. I've watched all the Lone and Cub movies more than once, and I can't think of any scenes that are analogous per se, or any specific plot lines, but maybe if I went back and studied the Mandalorian episodes again, after having recently rewatched all the Lone Wolves, maybe I would see that. So maybe there is some deliberate homaging, and that's fine too, because you could do a lot worse than homage people like Kurosawa and Kenji Misumi, towering giants of Japanese samurai cinema. It lends a certain weight, depth, and gravitas to Star Wars. Mandalorian locates Star Wars in a cinematic tradition, finally. Something I think it's always lacked. I mean, you could say, yeah, it's classic escapist science fiction fantasy. He was influenced by Flash Gordon. That's cool, but I mean, there was always a lot more to Flash Gordon than that anyway. And I don't mean the movie, the 1980, great 1980 movie, but I also mean the comic strip, which came from a certain tradition as well. And then there were the serials. The serials are really what influenced Lucas. But that's a whole nother argument for another day. I don't know if I've even reviewed Flash Gordon for this channel. I did recently rewatch it on Blu-ray, and there's supposed to be another super duper 4K Blu-ray coming out. I don't think I'm going to upgrade, but I am going to review it. If I hadn't reviewed it already, I'll have to go back and see if I've reviewed it. I may have. If I haven't, though, I will be talking about Flash Gordon 1980 because it's been a big part of my life. And if you've heard all this already, just feel free to ignore me. I'm just rattling. So I'm hitting the 1 hour mark. My laptop didn't crash, so I'm all good. Those are my thoughts on The Mandalorian. Oh, another great cast member, Ming-Na Wen, who I remember way back. I'm so old here. I remember way back from when she started on a soap opera, also called As the World Turns, as Leanne Hughes. And I've seen her kind of grow up, and she was the voice for Milan, and then she was on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. And she's like, she's around 50, I guess, early 50s. She is still stunningly beautiful. Great actress, and she plays a very cool key character in Mandalorian Season 2. Okay, I just got the blip, my battery's running low. So I just want to sneak that in there. So subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and love you. I'll talk to you soon. If I can get this to stop. Take care.